Hi, JDL Brushes here, and this video is brought to you by the Marker Brush Pack. Yes. So here you can see me starting out with a beautiful canvas, landscape canvas, and you can actually see faintly in the background there is this kind of border constraint where there's this center area for the kind of square white box, and I typically want to contain the sketch within that constraint. You can also see the reference on the top left corner, and this attempt on this sketch is actually a failed one because I did try to layer multiple stuff, or I tried to separate each furniture into its own layer, but I don't know, it wasn't working for me, and there you go. I just fuck. And now you can see me laying in some light blue strokes that I've color picked from the original photo, and I'm laying out the couch and the coffee table, and with a lighter blue some of the wall right behind the couch. And again, I'm working this time on just one layer, trying to not be scattered and just keep it simple. And now you can see me add a darker shade, defining the edge of that coffee table and also of the couch. Now for this whole sketch, you won't actually see me use the selection tools, which I tend to use in these kinds of sketches or renderings. But yeah. And this one actually turns out to be very impressionistic. I'll say that. Very abstract. And it almost looks like a natural marker sketch that I would do back in school. And you can actually see me use some finer lines for the details. Well, not so much the details, but rather the kind of edges, corners and stuff. And I think you should be very careful doing the fine lines thing, because sometimes you can end up overdoing it, and you may even, if you don't pay attention, you might end up rendering with that small fine line. And at least for me, when I do these sketches, I like to use the broader brushstroke for the majority of the sketch. And now you can see me adding in some whites to fill out that or those pillows. And as you can see, it's all fairly blue. So yeah. And I was actually just trying to figure out a kind of a different method of rendering, and I decided to just focus on the composition of the sketch, or not really the composition, but the technique, and I just left the colors almost analogous, and yeah. Although I do feel there's so much going on, and I probably will refrain using this methodology because it's it's a little too much, and yeah. So I did use the color balance tool, and I made a copy of the original sketch and then change the values or the hue of that sketch into a yellowish type, and then used a mask to hide the whole thing, and then use the same marker brush to reveal areas where I want the yellow to show up. So yeah, and you've seen me do this before, where I do use the layer mask. It's kind of a safe way to erase, and it's a way of hiding or showing the things. So that's my explanation. And you can see me add a dark stroke. It's sort of a bluish purple type. It's pretty close to black, and it helps to add some contrast to your sketch. Oh yeah, I think I tried adding a few extra hues, but I was like, you know what? Yeah, maybe now is not the time, because I'm really just trying to experiment with the technique. And now you can actually see me use some of the yellows and whites to add those fine lines. And yeah, whenever you're trying to find your own technique or develop your own technique, I think it's best to prioritize that thing, which is finding your technique. So make sure you have a reference photo to study, and to limit your rendering to just the technique, and just not focus on the hues and other kinds of principles in art, and just focus on developing or experimenting a method. And now you can actually see me using the multiply layer, and it's a great way to add a darker shade. And all you do is just pick out or color pick the color of interest, and then on the new multiply layer you just render in that new multiply layer. And yeah, and it's also pretty, it's another way to be safe in your rendering, right? And I think I'm adding more fine lines, more whites. And I think I did use, no. So I think I'll proceed with the flooring, yes, and just fill out the ground and add some shadows on the flooring. And again, adding some more of the, I believe this is an overlay, I'm not sure, probably multiply. And I'm actually near the end of this sketch, and this sketch took about like 30 minutes or so. It's pretty short, and I think it's best to keep your experimentations within 30 minutes to an hour. I think it's a good amount of time to just try things out, right? And I think I was trying to play more with the color balance, and I believe some of the hue and saturation perhaps later on, or yeah. And I was like, you know what, nah, fuck it, it's fine. It's pretty analogous, but it's there, you know? Not bad. Not bad. Not bad. So that is the final interior sketch, marker sketch. Whichever your art, whatever your tool, make it beautiful.